Although Carole Tuesday takes place on Mars, the society of the setting is intentionally made very similar to one that many of us live in now. The cities are cosmopolitan, there's a democratic government, and there's a well-developed market economy and some measure of income inequality. One important but unfamiliar aspect, however, is that most culture is produced by artificial intelligence. This is a critical point highlighted by the show's official synopsis, and it defines the musical landscape in which the protagonists are attempting to share their creativity and skill. In this video, I will introduce how AI is used to produce culture in Carole and Tuesday and why. I'll then examine the extent to which I think this is plausible in the real world, and also argue that we are already seeing signs of AI culture in the present day, but in a different way than what's shown in the anime. The journey of Carole and Tuesday is not itself about money, but having some understanding of the economics of the music industry can help inform why and how AI would be used the way that it is in the show. The industry in the present day is dominated by record labels or record companies, which create or accept records from musicians and markets them to the public. This aspect of the music industry is quite confusing, but not completely necessary to understand, so at the end of this video I have a footnote to explain what an independent record label is and the difference between a record label and a publishing company. If you want to watch that now, there's a timestamp to go there in the description. Continuing on, making a record is an expensive process. Money has to be spent to rent studios and staff them, to find new talent, and of course pay musicians that are recorded. If the music can be produced by AI, all of this is replaced with just the cost of using the AI software and the computers that it runs on, and an AI engineer like Roddy, who can do the work of potentially dozens of studio employees, songwriters, and musicians all by himself. This type of centralization is epitomized by Mr. Tao, who runs a record company single-handedly. He doesn't even need any musicians on his payroll. While this is probably an abstraction, as presumably he doesn't handle the label's legal or accounting affairs, he symbolizes the apex of an economic transformation where human labor can be supplanted by access to and the use of capital, in this case computing power and artificial intelligence. With fewer expenses, more money can go to Mr. Tao and his investors. This is of course the same process happening in some sectors of the present-day economy, where manufacturing workers, for example, are being replaced by machines, and the profits from the sales are more concentrated towards people who own factories or design and produce manufacturing robots. In regards to the musical AI technology itself, it already exists today in that we can already have algorithms produce decent-sounding songs. An approximation of how this software could work is that an engineer writes a program to pull out certain patterns from a music file based on qualities that are important to a song, such as melody, harmony, pitch, rhythm, repetition, development through a song, and so forth. They then provide a learning set of music files from which these values are measured and extracted, which provides the parameters used to create a new song that is similar in those aforementioned qualities to the songs that were fed as examples to the software. However developed the technology is, I would still guess we're quite a ways off from commercialization. At the end of the day, you can only make money if you sell your music to people. I think for a long time AI music will be interesting as a technical marvel, but the fact that humans didn't directly create the music will keep it from being very popular. Even in Carole and Tuesday, music isn't fully automated. Erdogan, for example, serves as the public face to help publicize the music that he performs, when it's heavily implied that he only has a small role in producing the music himself. Also, Tao takes on Angela as a singer when he has no apparent necessity to do so. Although some critics might say that popular music these days is so formulaic it might as well be produced by machines, the fact that it's not makes it easier to relate to and enjoy. I do think, however, that AI already produces modern culture in other ways. Much of culture now is created on the internet, from text to music to images to memes, and huge swaths of the World Wide Web are powered by feedback from AI algorithms that try and maximize clicks and exposure. Although I said above at the end of the day you'll have to sell your content to a person, the reality for many now is that you first sell your content to a computer algorithm so that a search engine will publicize your content and show it to people. An example would be the much maligned trend of putting long, sometimes irrelevant stories before recipes in cooking blogs. People don't really write like this normally. There have been decades of recipes that didn't use this format and everybody was satisfied, but search engines realized that the style of blog posts made people stick around on a page longer or something and decided to really publicize this style. Now it seems that every cooking blog is using this format, and this ridiculous style is part of the world's culinary culture. Another example might be clickbait thumbnails or titles, another distinctive presentation style that we're going to be stuck with for a long time because algorithms and testing really like it. As strange as AI producing art is, machines indirectly providing incentives to make humans produce certain types of content for its distribution is probably even stranger. That concludes what I have to say about this vision of artificial intelligence in Carole and Tuesday. I was actually expecting them to elaborate more on this point since it seemed like such an important part of the exposition, but it turned out to be a more minor detail of the world building. However, as of this video, there's still a lot of episodes yet not aired. In any case, hopefully this improved your understanding or gave you something to consider as you continue to watch the show or consume content on the web. Thank you. And I'm back. Here's my footnote where I briefly explain some confusing things about the music industry which don't really have to do with Carole Tuesday. First, the meaning of an independent record label. The term independent label conjures up an image of a small, less corporate record label, but the term itself really just means any record label that is not a subsidiary of a major record label. The current big three record labels are Universal Music Group, Sony Music Entertainment, and Warner Music Group, each of which has hundreds of subsidiary record labels with much more familiar names. An example of an independent record label is Flying Dog, the record label which owns the rights to many anime records, including the soundtrack of Carole Tuesday. Flying Dog is a subsidiary of Victor Entertainment, a subsidiary of Japanese economics company JVC Kenwood. As this illustrates, that a label is an independent label does not preclude it from being part of a huge corporate structure. Finally, I want to explain the difference between record companies and publishing companies because it's also confusing. In essence, record companies deal more with the rights to a record, and publishing companies deal with the rights to a song. What does that mean? A lot of the time, a musician recording a song is also the one that wrote it, but in cases where a songwriter doesn't perform their own music, they might license their song to a publishing company, which will then look for people to perform the song and collect royalties for it. This is why there's a Grammy Award for Record of the Year, which refers to the completed recorded track, and Song of the Year, which sounds like it should be the same thing, but is actually directly rewarded to the credited songwriters of the track, independent of the audio production and recording process that actually produces the finished product that can be listened to.